Welcome back to NYC TV Live, everyone. I'm Kristen Schuller here in studio. Earlier this month, Minecraft officially became the first Hollywood film of 2025 to surpass $200 million at the box office. Joining me now from Los Angeles is Seth Schachner. He's the managing director for Strat Americas. Seth, we always appreciate you waking up early on the West Coast for those of us here on the East Coast. And what a debut for Minecraft. How would you grade this particular launch in the box office?
This is one of these like blockbusters that sort of emerged. I think there was, some sense that it was going to be successful, but I think it took a lot of people kind of by surprise. Just it rocketed through the first weekend, and it's really grown internationally this weekend. And it looks like it's on track to be one of these pictures that kind of blows through the ether and gets to the stratosphere on the lines of Barbie, maybe the first billion-dollar picture. And so it's a very, very nice, pleasant surprise. And box office, I think, has been a little bit down compared to last year. So it's kind of bringing things back up to the level it was next year. It's the first real breakout of the year. So it's very positive stuff.
What goes into this film that makes it such a success, especially with its particular audience?
Couple things. I mean, this one hit like absolute gold with Gen Z, right? Younger demographic that I think a lot of the studios out here and streamers are struggling to figure out. Some stuff has really worked with it. Some stuff hasn't at all. They don't seem to care about Snow White and some of the older properties. But the other piece of it is just gaming. There's a huge potential, and it isn't potential. There's just crossover now between game properties, things that people of that age group grew up with, in the same way you and I might have grown up with a piece of music or another picture or celebrity, and it's just really, really hitting a chord. The other piece of the fact, gaming is a social entity. People share, it's very active on social media. So even with, maybe not the hugest marketing campaign in the world, the thing has become a real juggernaut. So it's really great stuff.
In this environment, Seth, how are you finding that consumers are taking to movies?
It's very tough right now, Kristen, because I mean, there's been a lot of criticism that the studios made, really formulaic pictures, and everyone, particularly younger people, don't want to see rehashes, number two, number four sequels, basically. So actually, Hollywood's been releasing a bunch of really interesting new pictures that are independent or that are, unique, adaptations, if you will. And people aren't really paying attention. It's tougher and tougher to break through the environment with all the at-home options right now. So it's a very mixed and tough environment. I just watched your prior segment. Streaming is obviously still strong with entities like Netflix, but it's harder and harder to break through the clutter, basically, and get people to go back into those theaters.
Yeah, so when it comes to what Minecraft might mean for the gaming space, certainly the box office has appreciated it. Seth, based on what you're sharing for me, what do you think this means for the gaming market, the fact that it has been a success early on in theaters?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Look, I think there's a ton of synergy, particularly for generations going forward, between games and traditional entertainment in general. So, I mean, I don't think every single game is going to work, but we've seen things like Five Nights at Freddy's and The Last of Us that originally came out of games, Super Mario Brothers, that will work. I also think it's very relevant to fields like music. There's a ton of crossover. You'll see things like Roblox and Fortnite becoming enormous virtual concert spaces on par with some of our biggest concert events. So I think there's a ton of crossover between the two. The studios are not, ignorant to this. So, Disney bought a piece of something called Epic Games, and I would imagine every development executive studio is looking at gaming to see where they can kind of mine the next big picture. But it's very positive, and there's clearly a lot of potential for the younger demographic here.
Is that a sweet spot, the crossover that we're seeing, Seth, and that you just alluded to between music, movies, and games, something that seems to have maybe a little bit of something for everyone?
Yeah, I think it's an enormous, particularly from a business standpoint. I'll point back to like a Travis Scott event on Fortnite or some of the things you've seen with Roblox, which some of us might think about as gaming communities, but younger people see this as a concert or a town hall, and whether you're using avatars or seeing things live, the size of the audience that have shown up for these things is, I mean, 45 million, something like that. For some of them, it's just tremendous. So, yeah, I think it's a real area of business potential, and I do think going forward you'll probably see, a lot more synergy between the two for sure.
Interesting. What else is on your radar in the streaming space?
Well, I'm always keeping an eye on, basically what's happening with the major streamers and if there'll be mergers there. I think the thing that's come up in the last couple days, there's been some very interesting reports on really how YouTube, which isn't always reported, is really now the king of all media. And what they're doing with everything under the sun, from music to football games, and the size of that advertising and subscription business. There are folks that are now saying with connected TVs, YouTube could basically surpass Disney and a lot of the other kings out there in terms of media. So that's something that I'm keeping my eyes on that I think is really interesting. And the other thing that just came out, there was a really interesting report that came in the market. Actually, Deloitte released it. That's sort of going back to the theme of what we're talking about with Minecraft. How social media is now really the center of gravity for everything, in terms of the entertainment world, and how so many of the younger people are much more loyal to influencers, to things that they're seeing in social media, whether that's Addison Rae or Charlie D'Amelio or Kim Kardashian, than they are to some traditional celebrity interests like a Brad Pitt. And I think you're seeing that as a big trend across the board. And I kind of got my eye on that for sure.
Seth Schachner, Managing Director for Strat America, is joining us from the West Coast. Seth, thank you as always.
Great to be here, Kristen.
It's great to see you.